I had met him for the first time at Jeff Levitan's house. Heard a lot about him prior to coming in. Entrepreneur, was in the real estate business, had been very, very successful in mortgages and real estate and what have you. And as you know, 2008, that changed up a lot of situations. He got involved in this business. Phenomenal story. Absolutely killing it right now. Last month, I was told he made over $85,000. He's on his way to $1 million worth of income per year, okay, which he's accustomed to because I believe he's done that in the past. Give it up for our great leader, Mr. Mike Wilson.
All right. Since I get to close this out, that makes me a... And who gets the coffee? Closers. So we had people from Texas, we had people from Nashville. Is there anybody from Indianapolis here? Boink, boink, boink. All right. I get to talk about the art of the kitchen table presentation. Now they tell me I've got 20 minutes, but I know we're supposed to end at noon and I like to be on time. So, the KTP. So, what is the KTP? Kitchen table presentation. Because there's new people in here. I have new people from my team. They're like, you're talking about what? See, not everybody knows this stuff. I remember when I first got recruited, Rob Day, Kevin McGinnis calls John Cleaver. John Cleaver calls me. Hey, here's the system manual. Read through this. I start reading some of the hokiest things I thought I ever read. You got to go to the BPM and the BMP and the KTP, and I'm like, is this a cult? What did I join? What is this thing? So the KTP, the kitchen table presentation. So where do you think Frank talks about the crusade? Where do you think we talk about the financial needs analysis? KTPs. They're either at your office or you are in their home. So this is not the technical side of the KTP. This is the art of the KTP. Because you do know that some people are better than others, right? Why? Why are some people better than others? Greg Camp last night at the SMD meeting, if you weren't there, I apologize. All the SMDs and MDs, we could have left, right? Yes! Meeting could have been done. We could have gone home after what we heard from Greg and Rob and Stokes. Unbelievable. But Greg's like, man, you got to have some passion. Like, if you don't have some passion, you can't talk like this. It's like Eeyore. I mean, so you got to have some passion. And there are some people who are really good when they're sitting in homes. Joel Briggs, the Briggs in Indianapolis, is unbelievable at bringing the passion. He is our big R. I am not. I am not the big R. Compassion was not on my spiritual gift assessment. But Joel, unbelievable at it. So when we talk about kitchen table presentations, there are all kinds of presentations. Everybody does something different. I think I've done 3 different kinds. When I first started, I had all of 2 days worth of training from Rob and John Cleaver and Kevin McGinnis. They said, okay, you're good to go. On your way. I didn't know what the next transition on the slide was. I'm like, click. Okay, we're Transamerica of WFG, click. Apparently we have something to do with financial services. There was no transition statement. I didn't know what was next. Oh, there's something called the Rule of 72. Albert Einstein, famous hair model, right? So I didn't know any of these things, what was next. And then we started like, oh, well, let's do it on a tablet because then we'd be really cool. Well, then we started kind of getting down to, we really, in Indianapolis, we do a lot of writing, very casual. So for us, we want to keep things casual. We want to keep them conversational. I feel, this is just me personally, that when somebody turns around and says, let's begin, and they pull out the flip charts, okay. And then the arms go across and then you sit back because now the presentation's beginning. It's like the movie is ready to start. This isn't a movie. We were just having a conversation. So some of the things that we do, we talk about the 5 C's. Has everybody heard about the 5 C's? Yeah. We talk about connection. We build a connection. We talk about the company. We want to talk about some concepts, some compensation, any challenges or concerns. So that's kind of laced throughout this presentation that we're doing, but it's got to be conversational. One of the things that I do, right, wrong, or indifferent, is I tell people, who does the KTP? I mean, most times, how many new people have not done 10 training appointments yet in here? Raise your hands high. I have not got my 10 field training appointments done. Okay, and now you put your hands down. Field trainers, raise your hands high. All right. So This is a scary time, because right now we don't know how much each of you guys trust each other, right? Like the new person's like, man, I'm brand new. I don't even know what this person's gonna tell my family. Are they gonna come in here, boiler room, close my mom? I mean, right? Are they gonna embarrass me? Are they gonna get all kind of cheesy and use a bunch of like, slick stuff and be used car salesman on my best friend? I don't know. So they're a little nervous about the deal, right? Field trainers like, man, we want these people to have a good impression of what you do. So when I tell people, here's what we're gonna do. The whole goal of this field training appointment is for you to get trained. We talk about it like a grand opening of a restaurant. When you have your grand opening, do you invite 5 people, 10 people, or everybody you know?
Everybody.
Everybody. Because we don't know who they know, we don't know what they're gonna see. So when somebody comes in, they say, okay, great. I set them at ease. We build a little bit of rapport. I'm fairly hilarious, so that usually goes well. So we've built our rapport, and didn't laugh at that as much as I thought you would. So we build a rapport, and like, hey, I just want to set you at ease. There's nothing to buy. There will be no closing. You can't sign up for anything, even if you wanted to. This is for training for Dante. I really appreciate you helping Dante out. Are those fair ground rules? Now they don't sit there with their arms crossed waiting for the gotcha, right? Gotcha. Now, when we go through some of the things, we focus big time on duplication. I mean, this is a duplicatable business. The only reason that I get to leave for Hawaii and know that the office is still running business is because I've duplicated myself in my field trainers. Does that make sense? So when we talk, and I remember, Whitney and Daniel were doing some field training together, and Daniel was on Whitney's team, and Whitney was training him, and he said, well, yeah, this kind of works like this. And she said, stop right there. It doesn't kind of work like that. It exactly works like that. Just take that word out of there. Just get rid of that kind of word. So we want to be very duplicatable. Now, even though in our field trainers are all a little bit different, everybody brings their own panache to the, to the meeting, the way they present, but the material, the transitions are going to be duplicatable. And when we present, it doesn't matter if you're doing a flip chart or you're writing things out. If you are going to talk about it, there has to be a reason. There's got to be a reason for it. This is not a big presentation. So I'm going to present a concept, and we're going to talk about some problems and some solutions. So everything that you draw should have a problem or a solution. Like we draw the circle, and we talk about how money flows, and what's the problem with that, and what's the solution? How does WFG, how do we solve that? And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to develop some pain. Kevin McGinnis wants to stick the knife in and just twist it a little bit. Kevin is a brilliant sales trainer, and he will talk about stretching the rubber band. Now, if I can take you from here and say, hey, wouldn't it feel great if I could get you debt free? Wouldn't that feel great? I've stretched the rubber band a little bit. He goes, but that's not stretching it enough. I first have to bring you all the way down here and say, man, how bad would it feel to never retire, to work till the day you drop? Now let's imagine that we can get all the way up here. Now I've stretched that rubber band further. I've gotten that emotion. So when you are in your KTP, this better not be a presentation. I watched Whitney do one. It was one of her first ones I let her do on her own. And she literally sat there so that people couldn't see anything, wrote everything down, and talked as fast as she could. She was done with the whole thing in 16 minutes. And she's like, why didn't you stop me? I'm like, it was like a car accident. You couldn't. Like, you got to just watch this thing and see it through. It was awesome. She vomited everything she'd ever heard me say in 16 minutes. How many questions do you ask? It's, hey, let me present a little bit of information, and then let me ask you some questions. Does that make sense? Do you have this? Do you have any of this? So we're gathering information the whole time, because otherwise I don't know if they're tracking with me or not. Does that make sense? So some of the other things that we do, because everybody always just, like I said, as soon as they come up, what are you doing? How are you doing this fast? So all of this, everybody knows there's all the technical side. I mean, the rule of 72. So when you present the rule of 72, are you presenting it just so they understand how compound interest works and, and time value of money? I tell them everything. So let me show you the rule of 72. It's kind of a cool rule. Albert Einstein discovered it. We make some jokes. It teaches you how to double your money. So kind of a good rule. Everybody wants to learn that. We walk through our illustration, however you explain it. And then I tell them, so why am I teaching you about this? Why am I teaching you about compound interest? So where do you have your bank account? Chase Bank. Do you have any idea what Chase Bank pays on savings accounts? Oh geez, oh my gosh, like nothing. Like it doesn't even pay to open the envelope, like 0.01. Exactly, way below whatever my illustration is here at 6%. And what's the average credit card interest rate in the United States? Oh my gosh, it's like 18, 20%. Exactly. So if this is people's relationship with money, they can never get ahead. Does that make sense? And because then they start putting themselves into that position. So what we do is we teach people how to flip-flop that relationship. So, oh my gosh, so there's a solution. You're not just gonna be like Debbie Downer and just leave me with all these negative things that I'm stuck with. We talk a lot about taxes. Anybody who's heard me at Elite Circle, love talking about taxes because people don't know. I was actually in a meeting with an RVP or a big regional something of a company, Prime something or other. I don't know if his ring was a football ring or if it was from their company. And I asked him, I said, he was asking me why we sell IULs because he thought, I should be a crook and in jail or something for selling permanent insurance. And I said, well, it all comes down to taxes. I said, what's the highest tax bracket in our country's history? What's the worst it's ever been? And he said, I don't know, 30? I'm 30? I mean, it's 39.6 today, so one that tells me he's not wealthy because he doesn't even know what taxes are today. But that means from top-down leadership, he isn't duplicating himself, making sure that his team understands the ramifications, because a lot of people who are looking at things, that's what they're looking at. So, reason for everything you draw, problem solutions. When we recruit at the end, when we're talking about compensation, what's the best product that we have? What's the best thing in the financial needs analysis? We've got all these great things that we can do, but the best thing I can offer somebody is this opportunity, right? So I have recruited numerous 50, 55-year-olds that are saying, man, I am not on track. Okay, great, well just go tell your boss you need to work an extra however many hours, make an extra couple $1,000s a month and we'll get you on track. And they're like, no, there's no amount of hours extra my boss will let me work that will pay me $2,000 extra. Like, well, I mean, we could do something like that on a part-time basis, just making some referrals. Now, we are a licensed regulated industry, so we have to get you a basic license. And we can talk more about that when we get back. John Cleaver uses a great line I like when he's wrapped up. One of the things we always would do is people, just like at the BPM, people come in, what's the first thing you are not supposed to say when you go into your guest? What do you think? Because they don't know what to think. So, same thing at the end of the meeting, you've built all this momentum. It's not, do you have any questions? Because what's their answer? No. What questions do you have? Because they have questions, right? And then that makes them feel like, okay, let me tell you some questions. Hey, I don't know if Elizabeth told you or not, but for helping her with your training, you're gonna get a free financial needs analysis. We're gonna actually create a free financial plan for you. So what I'm gonna do is we're gonna put together some basic illustrations because you had some questions on how this fourth box worked. And when we get back together, we'll show you how all that works. Now, it's no big deal. This helps her with her training, so I just want to make sure the same ground rules we set for this meeting are the same ground rules for the next meeting. There's still nothing to buy. She's going to learn to use the computer software and how to do the financial needs analysis and create the plan. So we'll just show you how all this stuff works. If you're interested, we'll talk to you about the paperwork and we can go that far. If not, no big deal. How's that sound? Sounds great. Does that make sense? So the things that we want to focus on when we're looking at that is you've got to look at however your leader does their KTP. It's got to be duplicatable. It's got to be continuous. You've got to understand it. You need to understand every single thing every page you flip, and you need to be able to explain it multiple ways. So when we first started, I had a gal on our team, Takara, and she was trying to explain one of the concepts. I can't remember which one. And she said it wrong, and so, playing devil's advocate, I'm like, oh, I don't know what you mean. How does that work? And she's like, well, I don't know. That's the only way I know how to explain it. I'm like, but do you understand it? She's like, no, not really. I'm like, okay, well, you need to first understand it, because that way, if they ask you a clarifying question, you'll know. So everything that you draw, every slide that's in your BPM, you better understand it, exactly how it works, why it works. that's the thing. This is a relationship, business. When you are meeting with this new trainee, man, they are worried. They are worried that you are going to say something or that you might offend them. But when you come in this way, they're like, wow, that was really, I learned a lot. This person was very educational. I didn't, does anybody want to talk about money? What were we always told not to talk about? Politics, money. So, sex, there we go, religion. So when you come into their house, shouldn't a wall be built up? Aren't they supposed to be defensive?
Yes.
Yes? Yeah, they're supposed to be defensive because they were told to be defensive. And if they weren't defensive, you should be maybe a little concerned because maybe they're not the sharpest tack in the, you know what I mean? So I tell them, hey, you're like, well, you're here talking about money and I don't know you. And I'm like, absolutely, you should absolutely be defensive. This sounds too good to be true. That's what I said. I'm stealing their thunder before they can even say it. When I show them, the IUL, and I talk to them about tax-free solutions that they've never heard about before, like, hey, I don't know about you, Wayne, but when I saw this, man, it sounded too good to be true to me. And I'm thinking, man, if you've never heard it and it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. That's at least what my dad told me. And so they're like, okay, well, this guy's kind of on my side. And then I had to ask myself the question, Wayne, why haven't I ever heard about it before? And so I started doing some research. So I started explaining that to them. Well, you have to be licensed to talk about this. It's not like drug companies. They can't just put it out on the radio or the TV. There's suitability requirements. People go, oh, that makes sense. One of the things I always tell people, it's like Starbucks. I always ask everybody, there's not a lot of original thoughts, but this is one of my original thoughts. I always ask them, did you know that Starbucks has a secret menu? How many people knew Starbucks had a secret menu?
My daughter.
Your daughter. Starbucks has a secret menu. And you can go in there and you can order cotton candy frappuccinos and Twix bars and all these things, but somebody has to tell you about the secret menu. I said, these products are really a lot of the same thing. All kinds of financial service companies offer them. This is not unique to Transamerica. Tons of companies offer these, but somebody's got to teach you about them. And sometimes they're not the highest profit margin products. So that's why maybe your broker never told you about it before. Does that make sense? So that is pretty much my time. That is a little bit of the art of the KTP. So make sure when you're going out, you're building that relationship, you're building that rapport. Think about the art. Do not just drill them with questions. Build the relationship. Try to figure out when you're doing it, record yourself. As Kevin McGinnis says, if you have not recorded your presentation, you are not in this business. Go back, listen to it. How many questions did you actually ask them during the presentation? All right? See you at the top.